Anyway, let's start now. So this topic is all about high altitude space and deep sea physiology. I believe this is the second to the last topic for this particular semester before you take on your finals examination. Peripheral topics lang to, pero this topic is created in such a way na all of your physiologic concepts will be eventually integrated, and you can correlate the physiologic concepts as far as your systems are concerned in the physiologic changes that happens in high altitude space and deep sea, particularly your cardiac physiology and respiratory physiology. So every time we go into, or every time we move on into a topic, thumbs up react na lang if you would like to move on kung wala ng questions para we can move further kasi hindi ko kayo makita lahat sa screen, no? So let's start. So high altitude is the region of the Earth located at an altitude above 8,000 feet from mean sea level. That's about 2,500 meters in metrics, no? So people can ascend up to this level without any adverse effect, as we will further discuss, no? One thing to take note is high altitude is low barometric pressure, wherein as you move up the height, your barometric pressure lowers, meaning the air expands, no? So oxygen available in the atmosphere is the same as that of sea level, no? So your oxygen level is at around 20 to 21% of your inspired air every time, no? It remains constant even at high altitude, no? So partial pressure of gases, particularly oxygen, proportionately decreases. That's the pressure, no? Not the concentration of oxygen, but the pressure of gas decreases as the air expands when you go up the height. Carbon dioxide in high altitude is very much negligible to an extent. We will discuss that further later, and it does not create any problem. So the highest mountain here in the Philippines is Mount Apo, and I believe that's around 2,900 meters, no, or classified as a high altitude mountain. The highest point here in Luzon, I believe, is Mount Pulag, only 50 to 60 meters less than Mount Apo, no. So barometric pressures differ at different altitude, no. The barometric pressure is at around 760 millimeter mercury. We all know that at sea level. But at 10,000 feet, it is only 523 millimeters mercury. So as the air expands, as you go up the height, no, sabi ko nga sa inyo kanina, the barometric pressure decreases. No. This decrease in barometric pressure is the basic cause of all hypoxia problems in high altitude physiology, because as the barometric pressure decreases, the atmospheric oxygen partial pressure decreases proportionately, remaining at all times slightly less than 20 to 21% of the total barometric pressure. Katulad yung sabi ko kanina, even at atmospheric level or 1 atm, your partial pressure of oxygen is around 21% of the air, no? It remains constant at even as you go up the height. But as the air expands, that pressure or that concentration it decreases. No? So PO2 is about 159 millimeter mercury at sea level, but at around 50,000 feet, as you can see here, it is only 18 millimeters mercury. So the partial pressure of oxygen decreases as the air expands. No? And these are the symptoms of hypoxia. No? Please take note of this table. It will probably come out in the exam. Can we move on? Okay. So even at high altitudes, no, as I mentioned a while ago, carbon dioxide is continually excreted from the pulmonary blood into the alveoli. No. In addition, water vaporizes into inspired air from the respiratory surfaces. No. These two gases dilute the O2 in the alveoli, thus reducing the O2 concentration. Water vapor pressure in the alveoli remains at about 47 millimeter mercury constantly, as long as the body temperature is normal regardless of the altitude. Katulad ng sinabi ko sa inyo kanina, yung partial pressure of carbon dioxide, no, it remains relatively constant, no, at around 40 millimeters mercury, as you can see here in column 1, 2, 3, 4, in column 6, no. So as you can see, even in sea level up to 30,000 feet, no, the partial pressure of the carbon dioxide in the alveoli remains constantly the same. So it does not it does not affect, no, your breathing. Your pulmonary ventilation does its way of excreting carbon dioxide up to a certain extent, no. So if you would look at the fifth column, no, the partial pressure of oxygen in the alveoli, no, this shows the approximate PO2 values in the alveoli at different altitude when one is breathing air, no, for both the acclimatized and the non-acclimatized person. So yung nasa labas ng parenthesis is the unacclimatized, while yung nasa loob ng parenthesis is the acclimatized person. So at sea level, the alveolar PO2 for both unacclimatized and acclimatized person is at 104 millimeter mercury. But if, as you can see here, no, as you go up the height at around 20,000 feet, it falls to about 40 millimeters mercury in an acclimatized person, but only 53 millimeters mercury in the acclimatized person. So the reason for the difference between these two is that the alveolar ventilation increases much more in the acclimatized person than in the unacclimatized person. So going up the altitude requires acclimatization, which we will further discuss. So this table naman shows the blood O2 saturation at different altitudes while the person is breathing air or normal air, and while the person is breathing pure oxygen. So normal air is expressed by the blue line right here, and breathing pure oxygen is expressed by the red line. So up to an altitude of 10,000 feet, no, even when air is breathed, the arterial O2 saturation remains at least as high as 90%, no? Kaya sabi ko sa inyo kanina, when you go up the height, no, at around the level of high altitude classification for the height, no, you relatively experience no effects of hypoxia yet, because your oxygen saturation remains relatively high, no. But above 10,000 feet, as you can see, the arterial O2 saturation falls rapidly, no, as shown by the blue curve on the figure, until it is slightly around 70% here at 20,000 feet, and much less at still higher altitude, no. So at if you're breathing normal air, hindi nyo pa may experience yung symptoms of hypoxia as long as you don't go past 10,000 feet, no. But as you move further, no, your O2 saturation falls rapidly, no, and then you will experience symptoms of hypoxia. But if you're breathing pure oxygen, as shown in the red curve, no, note that the saturation remains at above 90%, no, until you ascend at around 39,000 feet, wherein the red line falls rapidly up to about 50,000, or up to about 50%, no, at around 47,000 feet. So when you're breathing pure oxygen, mas mataas yung height na pwede mong ma-achieve as opposed to breathing normal air. Get so far? Any questions so far? All right. So changes in the body at high altitude, no? So sabi ko nga sa inyo, as we move up the height, past the height wherein your O2 saturation falls rapidly above 8,000 feet or above 8 to 10,000 feet, there will be hypoxia. Expansion of gases will occur. So the partial pressure of oxygen lowers and there is fall in atmospheric temperature, no? And there will also be exposure to harmful UV rays because the ozone layer is not operating at that particular high altitude. Kaya napapansin nyo, some mountaineers, when they go up the mountain, pagbaba nila, medyo tan sila. No? That is because due to the harmful UV rays and the acclimatization changes that they experience as far as their red blood cell volume is concerned. We'll further discuss that later. Any questions so far? If none, okay. So effects of hypoxia beginning at an altitude of about 12,000 feet to experience drowsiness, lassitude, mental and muscle fatigue, headache, nausea, and euphoria. So these progresses to a stage of twitchings above 18,000 feet and then above 23,000 feet in the unacclimatized person, as we discussed in the previous tables and the graphs kanina. No, the person might eventually experience coma, followed by shortly thereafter death. Right. So in acclimatization, please take note that hypoxia is the principal stimulus for causing an increase in red blood cell production. So ordinarily, when a person remains exposed to low O2 for low oxygen several weeks at a time, the hematocrit slowly rises from a normal value of about 40 to 45 to about 59 to 60%. No, with an average increase in whole blood hemoglobin from the normal of 14 to 16 milligrams per grams per deciliter to about 20 grams per deciliter. In addition, the blood volume also increases, often by 20 to 30%. And this increase is multiplied by the increase in blood hemoglobin concentration of about 50%. So pulmonary ventilation increases and pulmonary hypertension initially happens, no? Pero as your body gets acclimatized, it goes back to normal. And there is also elevation of both cellular oxidative enzymes and mitochondria. So your body can utilize or can optimize that the oxygen consumption in your body even at low oxygen. Any questions so far? So ang takeaway nyo sa slide dito is that hypoxia is the principal stimulus for causing an increase in blood cell production. So what happens when you ascend or when you hike up the mountain ng mabilis, no? So acute mountain sickness is a condition characterized by adverse effects of hypoxia at high altitude, no? So as we mentioned kanina, persons going to high altitude for the first time, symptoms will include loss of appetite, nausea, and vomiting. So heart rate and force of contraction of the heart increases. There is pulmonary edema due to the vasodilation of pulmonary blood vessels and increase in pulmonary blood pressure. There is headache. There is mental changes such as depression, disorientation, irritability. There's also periods of insomnia and fatigue, no? And if this persists, cerebral edema might ensue. Okay. And what happens when the sequence of events persist, no? So you will experience chronic mountain sickness, no? So the probable consequence of chronic mountain sickness or the sequence of events is about threefold, no? First, the red blood cell mass becomes so great that the blood viscosity increases several fold. This increase in viscosity tends to decrease the tissue blood flow, so that O2 delivery also begins to decrease. No? Then second, the pulmonary arterioles became vasoconstricted. Kanina sa acute mountain sickness may pulmonary vasodilation. Pero in chronic mountain sickness, the pulmonary arterioles become vasoconstricted because of lung hypoxia. It's the tendency of the lung to divert the blood to high ventilation areas, no? So the vasoconstriction, sabi ko nga, results from increase from the hypoxic vascular constrictor effect that normally operates to divert blood flow to the low O2 to the high O2 alveoli, no? However, because all of the alveoli in the lungs have low oxygen state because of the low partial pressure of oxygen, all the arterioles become constricted eventually in chronic mountain sickness. So the pulmonary arterial pressure rises excessively and the right side of the heart fails kasi pulmonary hypertension causes subsequently enlargement of the right side of the heart, and if that fails, you can have right-sided heart failure. And then third, the alveolar arteriolar spasm diverts much of the blood flow through the non-alveolar pulmonary vessels, thus causing an excess in pulmonary shunt blood flow where the blood is poorly oxygenated, which further compounds the problem in chronic mountain sickness. So make sure you know the difference between acute mountain sickness and chronic mountain sickness because that will be coming out in the exam. No. So, yun nga, sabi ko kanina, if this persists, the peripheral arterial pressure begins to fall, congestive heart failure ensues, particularly right-sided heart failure, and then death often follows, unless the person is moved to a lower altitude so he or she can acclimatize to that particular low oxygen pressure. All right. So that's all on high altitude physiology. Any questions so far? Wala. We can move on na to aviation physiology. Okay. So short lang naman to, no? So in aviation physiology, no, flying exerts great effects on the body through accelerative forces and gravitational forces. And these are developed during flight maneuvering. So acceleration, deceleration, yaw and pitch of the aircraft, no. These causes accelerative and gravitational forces in the body. So the major factor that develops is the accelerative force, meaning it's the acceleration of the aircraft and deceleration of the aircraft, as well as the changing of the direction of flight, no? So force or pull of gravity upon the body is expressed in units called G, no? So force of the gravity while sitting, standing, or lying in one atmosphere, or kung yung ginagawa nyo ngayon, no, is equal to the body weight and is referred to as 1G. So yung na-experience natin ngayon, the gravitational pull of the earth, no accelerative forces, that is 1G, no? So please take note of this bullet kasi G unit is increase in acceleration, no? There is a positive G and a negative G. So increase in G unit is called positive G. That's when you're in an aircraft and the aircraft suddenly picks up speed, no, you are pushed against your seat. That's called positive G, no. And then the decrease in G unit, wherein the aircraft puts its air brakes on and you are pulled against your seat belt, is called negative G. So positive G, negative G. Ang example niyan sa land is if you're from a full stop when you're driving a car and you suddenly press the accelerator, you're pushed against your seat. That is positive G. No? And then when you're traveling 200 kilometers per hour and then you suddenly put on the brakes, no, you're pulled against your seatbelt. That's called negative G. So same in aviation, or same when you're in flight, these forces also affect you. No, so pag bumilis yung aircraft, you're pushed against your seat. That's positive G. When the pilot suddenly puts on the air brakes and you're pulled against your seat belt, that's called negative G. So please remember this slide. It will probably come out in the exam. Any questions so far? Teka lang may question pala si Dr. sa GD. Doc, how long yung pacing for acclimatization? Does it take days or months? As far as mountaineering is concerned, no, dito kasi sa Philippines, walang mountain that doesn't go above the high altitude classification. Pero in some mountains like Kilimanjaro or Everest, wherein it's really, really very high altitude, they have to get acclimatized for about 24 to 36 hours at a certain height before they go up. Kaya yung sa Everest, meron silang mga camps so they can get acclimatized, no? And please take note that these mountaineers also carry pure oxygen with them together with their Sherpas. So they breathe pure oxygen, but even so, they still have to get acclimatized kasi other than decreased pressure in oxygen, there is also temperature changes in Everest, and also there is the exposure to harmful UV rays. So they need to get acclimatized for about 24 to 36 hours per camp, depending on the height as they go up the peak. So does that answer your question, Dr. Sajili?
Yes, Doc. Thank you po.
Okay. Sorry, hindi ko nakita kaagad yung chat. No. So anyway, back to gravitational force. Please take note of this slide. It will probably come out in the exam. So effects of gravitational force on the body. So the effects of positive G, no? Again, when your body is pushed against your seat, no? When the G unit increases to about 4 to 5 Gs, blood is pushed towards the lower parts of the body, including the abdomen, no? So reduced blood supply in the brain and eyes leads to the graying of vision that occurs when the blood flow in the eyes starts to diminish. This is the graying out of vision. So there will be subsequently complete loss of vision and loss of consciousness as the blood is shunted towards the lower parts of your body when you accelerate. No. So when the force increased to about 20 Gs, bones, particularly the spine, becomes susceptible for fracture, even at sitting posture. No. So imagine 20 Gs, no. So that's 20 times the gravity of what you feel right now, no. And if your bones can't handle it, it can break, no, particularly in the spine. Pansin nyo, nanonood ba kayo ng, kunyari, pag naglo-launch ang NASA or SpaceX ng mga astronauts to space? Napansin nyo yung mga astronauts, they are parallel to the ground do sa cockpit nila, or they're perpendicular to the rocket, and they're on a semi-reclining position. That position is actually effective in dissipating the effects of positive G when they launch from Earth to space, no? Especially in a 3-stage rocket propulsion, no? Wherein yung spacecraft nila is in a 3-stage rocket boost, no? Yung 20 Gs of force when in a semi-reclining position, and maganda yung pressurization ng suit nila, it can only go down up to 9 Gs na lang, no? So that's why the astronauts are wearing pressurized suits, as well as they're in a semi-reclining position on launch, so they can dissipate that force or lower the force of the accelerative force of the rockets when they launch to space. So that's the effects of positive G. Ang effects naman of negative G, no? This is, of course, the reciprocal of positive G. So negative G develops while the pilot puts on the air brakes, again, when you're pulled against your seatbelt, or you're doing inverted flying, no? As opposed to effects of positive G, in negative G, the blood is pushed towards the head, no? So there's also blurring of vision and sudden reddening of the visual field, called a red out. No, this is the opposite of the graying out of vision you experience when you experience positive G. No, since the eyes or the orbital space is not part of the closed compartment of the head, no, there is no cerebrospinal fluid to cushion the flow of blood sa eyes, no. So mag-accumulate yung blood sa orbital space and your optic canal, causing red out. Pero same din, you will also experience loss of consciousness due to the increase in the pressure of blood vessels on the chest and the neck, as opposed to the positive G na decrease in blood pressure. You will also experience loss of consciousness in negative Gs. So, importante sa aviation physiology is proper flight maneuvering, no? So as not to experience this types of symptoms. Any questions so far as aviation physiology is concerned?
I think wala na.
Okay, so we move now to space, no? So the major difference in the space environment is, of course, the atmosphere. There's no atmosphere in space. Radiation, because there's no magnetic field to protect you from the harmful radiation coming from the solar rays, no, you will be more exposed to radiation. And gravity, no. So astronauts also wear the LE suit, or the launch and entry suit, that protects the body from the space environment. No, it protects from of course hypoxia. It protects the astronaut from high radiation, and these suits are actually pressurized in such a way na they can keep their body pressures doon sa loob ng spacesuit at a normal pressure. One or another factor which affects the body in space is weightlessness, no. It's not zero gravity, mind you. It's weightless. Weightlessness is not due to the absence of gravity, but rather microgravity. No, that is, the person is not drawn towards the bottom, sides, or top of the spacecraft, but floats inside the chambers. No, the cause of weightlessness is not failure of gravity or not zero gravity to the pull on the body, but because gravity from nearby objects such as you, the personnel around you, the spacecraft, and all of the heavenly bodies that surrounds you, their gravity in space cancels out. No, so you feel this state of weightlessness, but it's not because of zero gravity. It's because of microgravity. No, so that means that matter, no, matter exerts gravitational force, no. So meaning ikaw, your full composition, your full composition as a human being, the other persons inside the spacecraft itself, your distance from Earth, your distance from other heavenly bodies, their gravitational pull cancels out. That's why you experience weightlessness. It's not because of zero gravity, but because of microgravity, as all of the matter in your body and all of the matter in the heavenly bodies and the materials around you cancels out. Malinaw so far? Please take note of that kasi baka lumabas sa exam. So, effects of weightlessness in the spacecraft, no? So, since there is microgravity in space, And since our bodies have been dependent in gravity in gravity for a very long time from the day that we were born, no? Yung physiology ng katawan natin is functioning because of gravity. And when you go up to space, no, there is microgravity. So what happens? Your body goes through several changes. And these changes are the accumulation of blood and other fluid in the head and upper trunk. Firstly, at the heart, no, it will enlarge, and then after a while, it becomes gradually shrinking and in small size. No? So nagkakaroon ng cardiomyopathic changes sa heart, no, when you live in space. No? And the kidney compensate the excess fluid in the body by excreting the fluid and electrolyte, so the person does not feel thirst. Space anemia happens due to the decrease in both blood volume and RBC. No? There is also suppression of the immune system in the body. There is decrease in muscle mass and muscle strength because you don't use your muscles anymore, no? In space, no? Instead of walking, astronauts merely float in space. So when this happens, the osteoclast activities increase, no? There is abnormal stimulation of the vestibular apparatus, no? Kasi yung vestibulocochlear apparatus natin, no, may tubig yan sa loob. And when we go up to the space, that particular fluid experience microgravity as well, so the fluid floats also, no? And initially the astronauts experience nausea, vomiting, headache, and body malaise. But after a while, as their vestibulocochlear nerve adjusts, no, magdi-dissipate man yung symptoms. So that's the effect of weightlessness in a spacecraft, or what the astronauts experience in microgravity. Any questions so far in space physiology? Okay. Yung sabi ni Dr. Domingo, may question si Dr. Domingo. Doc, question regarding microgravity. Since the gravity exerted by the massive body surrounding the person cancels out, what objects with mass po contributes to microgravity? It will only the mass will only contribute to microgravity if you're particularly close to that mass, no? So for example, if you move up to the geostationary orbit of the Earth, wherein the gravity of the Earth does not affect you that much, no? Dun sa part na yon, you're relatively weightless. Pero pag nag-move ka below the stationary orbit or lumapit ka sa Earth, no? Mapupul ka eventually nung Earth because of its gravity. So mapupul back down ka. In terms of microgravity, they don't contribute that much. Pero what happens is when you move a particular smaller mass into a larger heavenly body, nagkakaroon ng accelerative force, then eventually mapupul ka nung gravity na yon, no? That's why when yung mga Voyager spacecraft natin, no, in order for them to conserve fuel, they do an orbital slingshot. So from the Earth, no, they use the gravitational pull of the moon muna to accelerate themselves out into deep space, no? It does not affect microgravity. It does not affect microgravity if you're at a canceled out position or in your weightless position. But as you move yourself to large masses of heavenly bodies, that's when you get pulled. And when you play that particular gravitational pull to your advantage, you can actually slingshot yourself, or you can use that gravity as an accelerative force to further travel into space. Nagigets mo, Dr. Domingo?
Thank you po, Doc.
In terms of microgravity, wala. Pero as you move closer to large masses of heavenly bodies, you can use the gravity either to pull you down or to accelerate you into deep space. So any questions so far about deep space physiology? All right. So if wala, last topic na tayo, deep sea physiology. So this is this is us when we did our advanced water certification for scuba diving. And that's our dive master, Daniel. French national siya. Okay, so when human beings descend beneath the sea, no, the pressure around them increases. This is contradictory to when you go up the high altitude when the pressure decreases. No? So pagka bumaba ka when you go underwater, when human beings descend, the pressure around them increases tremendously. No? To keep the lungs from collapsing, air must be inspired at a very high pressure to keep them inflated. No? This maneuver exposes the blood in the lungs to extremely high alveolar gas pressures, not only through oxygen but also in different gases, particularly nitrogen, which we will further discuss. No, and this maneuver causes high alveolar gas pressure is a condition called hyperbaryism. No, so the effect of depth in compression of gases to smaller and smaller, the effect of depth is compression of gases into smaller and smaller volumes, no, as illustrated by the bell jar concept right here. No, so at sea level, you can see that the bell jar or the talk box is containing 1 liter of air, but as the bell jar descends up to 33 feet, no, where the atmospheric pressure is around 2 atmospheres as indicated by the table, the volume have been compressed to 1/2 liter na lang because of increase in pressure. No. So the volume has been from 1 liter to 1/2 liter. And as you can see, at 8 atmospheres or at 233 feet, no, it has been compressed to 1/8 liter na lang because of extreme pressures. Thus, the gas volume, which to a given quantity of gas is compressed, is inversely proportional to pressure. No? So as the pressure increases, the volumes of the gas lowers naman. As opposed to high altitude na as the pressure decreases, the volume of the gas expands. Any questions for this table so far? Take note nyo yung table. So these are the effects of nitrogen narcosis, no, as we move down the depth. No, as you can see at sea level to about 66 feet, no, or about 3 atmospheres, there is no effects of nitrogen narcosis yet. But as the pressure increases to about 4 atmospheres at a depth of 100 meters, no, the nitrogen gas becomes soluble, that it moves up or that it moves through your blood tissues and your nerves, and symptoms of nitrogen narcosis appear. No, so as you go down the depth, there is lack of concentration. No, at 6 atmospheres, you feel drowsy. 200 feet, that's relatively deep. No, you feel fatigued, weak, and careless. No, you lose judgment, and you become unconscious at around 9 atmospheres at around 266 feet. And I believe this is me at pero mababaw lang din. This is around 26 meters. So nitrogen narcosis or raptures of the depths, no? So nitrogen narcosis has characteristics similar to alcohol intoxication. No? And for this reason, it has been frequently called the raptures of the depths. No, so the mechanism of the narcotic effects of nitrogen is believed to be the same as that of most other anesthetic gases. That is at a certain pressure, no, sabi nga natin kanina sa previous table, no, at around 3 to 4 atmospheres or at around 100 feet, um, nitrogen in the compressed air that you inhale, no, dissolves into the neuronal membranes, and because of this, you experience symptoms similar to alcohol intoxication. And at that depth, nitrogen becomes soluble in fat. It escapes to the blood vessels and gets dissolved, no, at that particular pressure. It acts like an anesthetic agent, sabi nga natin. And nitrogen narcosis can be prevented by mixing helium with oxygen. No, when we go as divers, when we go down the depths of about 40 meters or deeper, we use enriched air nitrox, meaning yung tangke namin ng compressed air, dinadagdagan namin ng oxygen. Kasi yung regular compressed air, there's only 21% of oxygen in that particular tank. No. But when we use enriched air, no, we usually mix oxygen up to a point to about 50 to 65% nung tangke namin is oxygen, and yung ibang parts is helium. No. So binabawasan namin yung nitrogen dun sa compressed air namin by adding more oxygen and more helium. That's called trimix diving, no, to avoid these symptoms of nitrogen narcosis. So nitrogen narcosis may be prevented by limiting the depths of the dives, no. So sa dive, ang ginagamit namin is this one. It's a dive computer, no. We have what we call no decompression limits, no. So at a particular depth, we can only stay for a period of time, no. Your dive computer will actually count those minutes for you, no. So for example, at 50 meters, you can only stay for that particular depth for 15 minutes, no. If you stay longer than 15 minutes, the dive computer will beep, and then it will show you your decompression limit. Meaning pagka lumampas ka ng 15 minutes sa 50 meters, no, you have to do interval ascending. Meaning dapat dahan-dahan kang umakyat. Kasi pagka binilisan mo yung akyat mo, pag lumabas yung nitrogen bubbles sa katawan mo, you can experience decompression sickness. So this dive computer will guide you most of the time kung ilang minutes ka lang magsistay at a particular depth, no. And this dive computer also indicates kung masyado kang mabilis umakyat, mag-a-alarm siya. Okay. Nitrogen narcosis yata ako na, pero hindi ko alam. Basta yan yung una kong dive at that particular depth. That's around 30 meters, no. Sobrang parang wala ako sa huwisyo, tapos nagpapatawa daw ako masyado, pero hindi ako nagsasalita syempre. So yun, parang nagkaroon ako ng partial nitrogen narcosis. So decompression sickness, no. So this disorder occurs naman when a person returns rapidly to normal surroundings or atmospheric pressure, no, from the area of high atmospheric pressure like the deep sea or at a certain depth to normal atmospheric levels of 1 atmosphere or 760 millimeter mercury, no. It is also known as dysbaryism, compressed air sickness, Caisson's disease, bends. I'm pretty sure you've heard of that kung Radiohead fan kayo, or diver's palsy. So ngayon, so sobrang lalim mo na, and all of the nitrogen gases got dissolved in your body because of the increase in pressure. As you move up, no, as you move up, pag masyado kang mabilis, those dissolved nitrogen goes back to its undissolved state as the atmospheric pressure lowers. Kasi in lower atmospheric pressure, non-dissolvable ang nitrogen. So it goes back to its non-dissolved state. And these nitrogen that got dissolved in your body forms bubbles, forms air bubbles that might eventually coalesce, no? So mag-iipon yung bubbles or they will coalesce and they can occlude your vital organs, no? And that's called decompression sickness, no? So nitrogen in the body fat forms a bubble when divers ascend rapidly in the atmospheric pressure, no? So the bubbles obstruct blood flow and produce air embolism if sa lungs nangyari. If nangyari sa heart, no, it can cause acute coronary syndrome, or if yung air bubbles napunta sa brain niyo, it can cause stroke, no. Pero severe forms of decompression sickness na yun. That's why we use the dive computer to computerize our ascend, no, especially when we go through the depths of around 50 meters or deeper, no. You make sure that you don't reach your no decompression limit. So meaning at a particular depth, always follow your dive computer. Pag sinabi niyang pagka at around 60 meters, 12 minutes ka lang dapat magstay. So magta-timer yan. Magbi-beep yan, magta-timer yan. Pagka 3 minutes na lang out of the 12 minutes doon sa kailangan mong magstay doon sa depth na yon, aakyat ka dahan-dahan, no? And even if you ascend, no, the dive computer knows if you're ascending too fast, no. So pagka masyadong mabilis yung akyat mo, magbi-beep siya. And pag nag-beep siya, you have to stay at that particular level or at that particular depth, no, and you slowly go up, no, para you computerize your ascend, you decrease the risk of having decompression sickness. So condition that increases decompression sickness, no, those ascending rapidly from deep sea to atmospheric level, sabi ko nga, those ascending rapidly and then riding an airplane, no. Also, one of the feature of the dive computer is the no-fly indicator. If you've been doing dives or deep dives of about 3 times in a day, no, pagkadating nyo sa taas, no, your dive computer will go into surface interval mode, no. It will count the number of minutes, hours, or days that you've been on the surface. And dito sa baba, wait lang. Yung last dive ko kasi 4 weeks ago. So dito sa baba, merong no-fly zone, no? It would indicate how many hours or days bago ka makasakay ng aircraft. Kasi hindi ka pwedeng mag-dive, no? From galing ka sa increased pressures of the depths, no? Tapos sasakay ka ng eroplano. Magkakaroon ka ng decompression sickness, pwede kang mamatay. So when you buy a dive computer, all of the dive computers right now has a no-fly indicator, no? So for example, if you've been doing 4 to 5 dives of about 50 meters, 1 hour each a day, no? Yung dive indicator nyo magsasabi you cannot ride an airplane for about 36 to 48 hours, no? Pagkatapos ng 36 to 48 hours, sabihin nung dive computer mo, safe to fly ka. Kasi, di ba nga sabi nga natin, you cannot go from an increase in pressure to a decrease in pressure very rapidly. And sabi nga natin kanina sa high altitude physiology, gases expand, no, as you go up the altitude, no. Imagine mo sa 1 atmosphere mag-undissolve yung nitrogen mo, what more pa kaya high altitude, di ba? So the tendency of nitrogen gases to coalesce further into bigger and bigger bubbles and occlude your vital organs becomes very, very severe if you don't follow your dive computer or if you immediately fly after doing a dive, especially deep dives. So symptoms of decompression sickness, no? As the nitrogen bubbles coalesce into different parts of your body, you will feel these particular symptoms, no? So it can coalesce in the joints or in the muscle tissues, no? Or in the nerve fibers, no? If it coalesces in the nerve fibers, you can either feel numbness, tingling sensation, paresthesia, or itching, no? Pag nag-coalesce siya sa nerves mo, no? It can also cause temporary paralysis, no? Pag nag-coalesce yung nitrogen bubbles dun sa motor nerve fibers mo. It can cause muscle cramps pag pumunta siya sa skeletal muscle mo, causing severe pain. It can also, sabi ko nga kanina, if minalas kayo and the nitrogen bubbles coalesce into your coronary artery, you can experience acute coronary syndrome or heart attack, no? Or myocardial infarction, because those bubbles can coalesce into your coronary blood vessels, thereby occluding the blood flow from your heart, no? It can cause occlusion in the vessels in the brain and spinal cord, no? It can cause cerebral infarct, no? Pwede kayong ma-stroke, no? It can also damage the tissues of the brain and spinal cord because of obstruction of blood vessels by these bubbles, no? And since your brain cannot use nitrogen, no, magkakaroon ng hypoxic tendencies yung brain and spinal cord niyo. Dizziness, paralysis of the muscle, shortness of breath, of course, pag nag-coalesce yung nitrogen bubbles sa lungs ninyo, no. Finally, fatigue, unconsciousness, and death. May tanong si Dr. Sajili, is nitrogen, Doc, the reason why some divers die if too deep? Not necessarily. The reasons why divers die is because they ascend too rapidly. Okay? Nitrogen in the body, as long as they're in a dissolved state and as long as your body can handle it, it will not cause any adverse effect. Magiging detrimental lang siya pagka masyadong mabilis yung ascend mo. And those bubbles that the nitrogen air that was previously dissolved in your body goes into an undissolved state in lower atmospheric pressures or as you go up to sea level, that it can occlude these particular vital organs in your body, Dr. Sajili. So that's when they die. That's when they experience the bends, and when the nitrogen bubbles coalesce to their vital organs, it can shut them down. Kaya namamatay sila. That's why you computerize your ascend, or pagka when you're a recreational diver, or you will make scuba diving your hobby, always invest on a good dive computer, no? When I was in the Navy Reserve, no, nung nag-training ako for Philippine Naval Reserve, hindi muna kami pinagamit nito. So imagine ang gamit namin is chart, NDL chart. If you've been seeing, alam niyo yung mga Seiko watches na may depth dito, yung mga scuba watches ng Seiko, nakalagay doon NDL limits, no. So hindi namin alam yung depth namin kasi we don't use a dive computer, or tinuturuan kaming gumamit ng NDL chart para ma-plot yung interval ascend namin. So okay yon kasi dive computers naman do not fail, no? Pero if in an emergency situation you have to do deep sea rescue, no? We use the NDL chart kung wala kaming dive computer, no? Kasi syempre we have to protect ourselves from decompression sickness. And also syempre yung no matter how much you computerize your ascent, you're still at the mercy of the level of air that your tank has, no? So kailangan yung air nyo sa tank is enough for you to do computerized ascent. Kasi baka, when you first dive, no, your tank is composed, or ang laman ng tank nyo is 210 to 240 bar of compressed air or enriched air, no. Kailangan yung tipirin yon, no, depende kung ilang minutes kayo magda-dive at saka kung gaano kalalim. Kasi by the time that you're at a depth, kunyari nasa 50 meters ka, tapos nasa 100 or nasa 70 bar na lang yung oxygen mo, from 210 bar, nasa 70 bar na lang, kailangan matipid mo yung 70 bar na yon to computerize your ascent para hindi ka magkaroon ng decompression sickness. Okay? Pagdating mo sa 50 meters, you have to stay at a particular depth for about 2 to 3 minutes at a time before you ascend to sea level. So kailangan you have to always check on your oxygen levels or your air levels, no? And that's the reason why some divers nagkakaroon ng decompression sickness, kasi as much as they want to computerize their ascent, wala na palang natitirang gas sa tangke nila, no? Kasi hindi nila tinitignan yung depth, yung pressure gauge nila. So anong pipiliin mo? Magka-decompression sickness or mawalan ng oxygen sa ilalim ng tubig? Syempre, 'di ba? Decompression sickness, no? Pero these effects, no, hindi natin malalaman kung ilang volume ng nitrogen yung na-dissolve sa katawan natin, no? And we can hindi natin alam kung saan magko-coalesce yung bubbles, no? And you would not want to risk it. So make sure you computerize your ascent, always check your depth sa dive computer. Always check your pressure, your tank pressure, if it's enough for you to do a recreational dive at a certain depth, and it's still enough for you to computerize your ascent as you go up. No. Once this pandemic blows over, or kung mag-a-vacation kayo, hit me up. I can dive with you guys kung gusto nyo. We have a place in Batangas para makapag-dive tayo. Ang mahal ng dive computer, Doc. Okay lang ba yung mga tig 7 to 10K lang? Yeah, well, medyo mahal talaga. So if you would go in, or if you would do recreational scuba diving your sport, you really have to invest on it. No. This is actually a good beginner's watch, a beginner dive computer. No, this is Cressy. I bought this for 16K. No, investment naman siya. No, so hindi mo lang, pagka binili mo to, it can last you a lifetime as long as you take care of it. No, so meron akong mas advanced dive computer that I use when I do multiple tanks. Kasi minsan nagta-trimix kami, or aside from the tank that we have at our backs, we also use side mount, no? And yung isa kong dive computer, na-connecta siya sa mga tanks. So meron siyang air integration. So I know when to change tanks. Kaya pag naubos na yung tank 1, I can shift to tank 2 by a press of a button here para makapagpalit ako ng tank. That's when I do side mount diving, or may dalawa akong tanke sa side ko. Pagka nagdi-deep dive kami, or we go past 70 meters. No. So investment talaga siya. It's one of the first 5 equipments that you will invest on when you make recreational scuba diving your hobby. No, dive computer, your regulator, your buoyancy compensator device, your fins, and your mask. So yun yung first 5 na i-invest mo. That's apart from the certification or the licensing that you will do. No, sa amin sa Scuba Diving International, hindi ako PADI eh. I'm from Scuba Diving International, and I do emergency rescue diving also. Yung open water certification or open water licensing namin is 16K. No, that's 3 days of 3 days of lecture, exam, and practical exam, na magda-dive kayo sa pool muna, tapos magda-dive kayo sa shore, tapos magda-dive kayo sa boat, no, boat entry, at saka if you want, you can go for night diving, no. Tuturuan kayo kung paano gumamit ng torch, paano mag-navigate using a compass, pag walang ilaw or pag night diving, no, gamit lang yung torch nyo tsaka compass nyo. Something like that. Yeah, medyo mahal sa PADI, sorry. Medyo mahal sa PADI kasi ibang klase yung marketing nila, no. Wala naman akong negative anything towards PADI, pero the reason why I chose Scuba Diving International is I want to make a career out of it, no. I will do my technical diving next year as soon as I get more hours in my advanced open water and side mount diving. And as ang SDI kasi, they were technical divers first before they were recreational scuba divers. And ako kasi, if I want to make a career out of it, gusto ko yung may expertise na when it comes to technical diving. PADI is okay, no? PADI is okay. Sila yung readily available. Sila yung mas maganda, mas malaki yung market, kaya sila mahal, no? So, should you decide to go on diving and you're in a pinch or kung hindi ganun kalaki yung budget ninyo, you can hit me up para we can teach you how to dive. Yuck, nag-plug daw. Anyway, yun lang. Any questions as far as decompression sickness is concerned? Wala? Okay. So, tandaan nyo din ulit tong slide na to. So, decompression sickness is prevented by precautionary measures like interval ascending. So, make sure you computerize your ascend. Make sure there's enough air in your tank para makapag-computerize ng ascend para hindi kayo nangangapa sa hangin, no? For divers or for people who makes a career out of doing work in the depths, no? Yung mga deep sea welders natin, yung mga transcontinental, transatlantic pipe layers natin, yung mga naglilay ng pipe, yung mga transcontinental sea pipe sa internet, no? They make a career out of doing dives in a very, very deep part of the ocean, wherein their oxygen tanks won't really cut it, no? They are put in a recompression chamber or a hyperbaric chamber, no? It simulates the pressures at certain depths, no, for certain amounts of time, no, usually lasting for about 24 to 48 hours, no, so they can get their body back to the atmospheric level, no, para hindi sila magkaroon ng decompression sickness, no. So hyperbaric oxygen therapy may be useful, no. Dito sa Anilao, we have a hyperbaric chamber, no. Isa lang siya. Isa lang yung hyperbaric chamber doon sa Batangas. So ang mangyayari pagka may diver na masyadong mabilis yung ascend from a very deep part of the sea, no, we usually bring him to the hyperbaric chamber so we can simulate the pressures at certain depths, no, para maiwasan yung decompression sickness or maiwasang mag-coalesce yung nitrogen bubbles sa different parts ng body niya, particularly sa vital organs, no. So pag nangyari yon, we put the person in a hyperbaric chamber, no. So depende kung gaano kalalim yung denive niya, no, we have a computation for that, no. Ganun siya katagal dun sa hyperbaric chamber hanggang ma-reacclimatize siya sa normal atmospheric level, which is 1 atmosphere or 760 millimeter mercury, no, to prevent decompression sickness. Also, pagka magda-dive kayo, especially in high traffic areas, you deploy a submersible buoyancy signal device, no, or a DSMB, no? That is to let the surface know that you're about to ascend, no. Kasi minsan may mga scuba diving areas na super high traffic, may mga dumadaan na bangka or barko. So make sure we usually deploy that around 10 meters, no. So make sure you deploy that para alam nung nasa taas na paakyat kayo Kasi baka mamaya umakyat kayo sa taas, tapos may padating pala na bangka or barko, no? Baka masagasaan kayo. So, we usually deploy that, no? To let the boat know na paakyat na kayo para masundo nila kayo. Or to let the other sea vessels know that there are divers below that particular point. So this is us doing an interval ascend. No, this is around 10 meters. No, so we deployed the DSMB or the dive buoy, no, to let the surface know that we're about to ascend. Kasi pag nakita ng boatman yan, susunduin na kayo dyan sa taas. No. And usually this is the safety stop that we call. This is the last 3 minutes of the dive wherein you deploy your SMB, and then you let the last portion of nitrogen air to dissipate in your body. Tapos pagkatapos nyo sa safety stop, mga 3 minutes, slowly ascend, no? Eventually pag nag-expand yung air sa BCD nyo or sa buoyancy compensator device niyo, dahan-dahan naman kayong aakyat. So this is what we use for diving. It's the scuba, or the self-contained underwater breathing apparatus. No, it prevents the ill effects of increased barometric pressure in deep sea or tunnels. No, it contains compressed air. No, depending sa dive nyo. If you're doing a recreational dive, you use compressed air. Or if you're doing deep dives, we use enriched air. No, wherein the oxygen levels of the tank is higher than 21%. No? So sometimes we use 35, 50 to 60% oxygen. No? So it is composed of the tank, the BCD or the buoyancy compensator device, which is the one I'm setting up in the video, and the regulator, yung nagsusupply ng air sa body nyo. And it's composed of a compass, as you can see right here, and ano yan, magkabilaan, pressure gauge, para malaman ko kung gaano kadami yung hangin na meron ako, and a compass, kasi when we do dives, the only thing that you can rely on is yung bearing mo and yung ilaw nung shore, no? So pagdating mo sa ilalim ng tubig, syempre madidisorient ka, no? So you have to follow back your compass or your north back home. Kasi baka mamaya pagka ahon mo, nasa gitnaan na pala ng dagat, tas malayo ka na sa shore. So this is Daniel, my dive master, helping me setting up my back tank. And I also carry a side mount with me when we go deep dive. So that's it. That's deep sea physiology, high altitude aviation, and space. Any questions so far? Wala nang mga questions. The slides are available naman sa Moodle, no? Doon lang din naman ako kukuha ng exam. I believe Dr. Valerio asked me to make 8 questions for this particular topic. So, kung nainig kayo and just read the slides, nandun lang naman yung mga ibibigay kong question. Okay? May questions pa? Any questions, guys? Wala na? Okay, if none, so that's it. 8 questions for this particular topic. Just study the slides. Kung nainig kayo, lahat naman ng sinabi ko, yun ang naman lalabas sa exam. So I'll see you guys around. Have a good day.
Thank you, Doc.
Thank you, Doc.